As Professor Cravens mentioned, I will actually be covering two topics today: The West Wing and Gilmore Girls. These are two TV shows near and dear to my heart that I know extremely well. These two shows were perfect partners to one another as they aired at almost exactly the same time, with only a 1 year difference between the two. Both were considered very progressive for their time and provided wildly different lenses for viewers to look at their world through. The West Wing is a political drama that aired on NBC from 1999 to 2007. The show centers around the two terms of fictional President Jed Bartlet, his senior staff, and the beauty and chaos of mixing personal lives and running the United States. Spearheaded by writer and creator Aaron Sorkin, the show garnered mass critical and audience acclaim during its run. It has gone down in history as one of the greatest dramatic TV shows of all time and is my number one favorite TV show ever. Along with Sorkin being the genesis of the project, the writing team, directorial team, and production team is made up exclusively of men. The only prominent woman on the creative team was former White House press secretary Dee Dee Myers, who worked under President Clinton and served as the show's head consultant. Additionally, 6 out of 9 of the main cast are men. Gender polarization and androcentrism on the macro level. The male characters in the show tend to believe and act as though they dominate the women, acting as their saviors, owners, or intellectual betters. While they hold feminist ideals in a broader sense and do act on them legislatively, such as increasing access to birth control, for one, they often distrust or brush off the concerns of the women they either work with, are romantic with, or both, in personal settings. However, the female characters challenge androcentrism more than they reinforce it. All the characters are heterosexual and don't challenge sexual norms. On a macro level, the way the female assistants and male assistants are framed is very different. The president's assistant, Charlie, a young man and the only person of color in the main cast, is referred to as a personal aide or body man, while the deputy chief of staff's assistant, Donna, and the other female assistants are referred to as such, while performing the same tasks as Charlie. This reinforces androcentrism by implying that men are stronger or more dominant with the term body man or more intelligent with the term personal aide rather than assistant, which is traditionally seen as an easy and submissive job typically done by women. Gender polarization and androcentrism on the micro level. How the men do gender. Josh and his assistant Donna are a slow burn romance that spans the entire series. In one episode, Donna is getting ready for a date. When Josh realizes this, he gets jealous and becomes aggressive and assertive when he feels his sexual dominance and therefore power over her is being threatened. This manifests in him literally insulting Donna's self-worth and work ethic. In response to this, Donna brushes it off as if it wasn't genuinely rude. Later, Josh is shown looking at her longingly, framing the audience in his favor, reinforcing that men's aggression is okay if it's in the attempt to be sexually dominant over a woman, like pulling a girl's pigtails on the. Another example is when Ainsley, a lawyer for the Bartlett administration, in her first day of working at the White House, is sent by her boss to speak with two staffers in the communications office about a potential legal issue they may have caused. While she's very calm and polite, they are mean, hostile, and dismissive, and later send her dead flowers with a note marked "bitch." When Deputy Communications Director Sam sees this, he saves her by bursting through the door and firing the men who wronged her, literally swooping in to save the day, reinforcing the idea that women are submissive and men are strong, emphasizing Sam's literal and figurative power over her. How the men undo gender. The show sticks out in a very important way in that it's not uncommon for the men in the show to be affectionate with one another, both physically and emotionally. This is shown mostly through Jed and Leo. After, spoiler, the president is shot in an attempted lynching of Charlie, before he undergoes surgery, he kisses Leo on the cheek and says it's okay while caressing his face. In a meeting with his lawyer during a deposition, when remarking how Bartlett is a master at public speaking, Leo stops himself to say out loud, "I love him so much." In these two scenes, the show challenged the idea that men can't be emotionally expressive or nurturing, though through notably the two most powerful men in the show, both politically and personally. How the women do gender. All the women in the show are physically attractive and are clearly invested in their appearances.
I didn't burn my bras, Jay. In fact, I like my bras.
Additionally, the women lean submissive to the men. Examples include the Ainsley Sam incident mentioned before and Donna's relationship with Josh. Especially in the first few seasons, Donna is literally pushed around by him, even being used as his writing surface at one point. This is surprisingly as far as the women go in terms of reinforcing androcentrism, though.
I'm the press secretary, boo-boo. I don't have that kind of time.
The women tend to act as sexual initiators. Spoiler, even though Josh kisses Donna first out of excitement, she is the one who initiates sex with him. CJ kisses her eventual husband Danny first, and we get these lines from Amy and Ainsley.
My problem is I want to jump him when he says things like that. I like sex.
Hello.
While the women of the West Wing are also incredibly outspoken, independent, and opinionated, unfortunately, they are typically overshadowed by the great and powerful rightness of men. Although they exude these qualities, a rarity for female TV characters in the early aughts, their male counterparts usually get their way. Leading me to the conclusion that, unfortunately, my beloved West Wing reinforces androcentrism more than it challenges it, even though the women fight like hell to change that. Gilmore Girls is a comedy drama that aired on the CW from 2000 to 2008. A beloved cult classic, it follows mother-daughter pair Lorelai and Rory Gilmore as they navigate life, love, and each other. Another favorite TV show of mine, it provides a snapshot of multiple generations of women spanning vastly different economic circles during the same era as The West Wing. Gilmore Girls stands out as a show mostly because the creator, head writer, and showrunner is a woman, Amy Sherman Palladino. She also uses predominantly female writing staff and production team, with a main cast consisting mainly of women, with the ratio being 5 out of 8. Reinforcing androcentrism on the macro level. Interestingly enough about this show, it was very difficult to discern a macro concept that the show exhibits that reinforces androcentrism. The two I came up with were, 1, Lorelai very much cares about her looks, loves to shop, loves to dress up, and has an extensive closet. All the women in the show care about looking pretty, reinforcing that women should be physically attractive. And 2, most jarringly, was the way the women are negatively sanctioned for behaving sexually. Let me explain. How the show does gender. Other than Lorelai or Suki, when the girls in the show lose their virginity or act sexual in any way, the show itself negatively sanctions them for it. Not the characters around them, but the actual plot of the show. When Paris loses her virginity, she gets rejected from Harvard, a school she was a legacy at and by all scholastic merit should have gotten into. Rory's first time having sex is with her ex-boyfriend Dean while he's married, which causes his divorce and her public humiliation, which is for sure her fault and she deserves to be negatively sanctioned for it, but it falls in a pattern with the other female characters. When Paris begins a sexual relationship with her older professor, he literally dies after Paris begins openly talking about their sex life. And the first time poor sheltered Lane ever has sex, she gets pregnant with twins by a man who is a textbook definition of a deadbeat, trapping her in a town and a life she has been desperately trying to escape the entire show. The only person this doesn't seem to happen to is Lorelai, which is interesting to me because other than Suki and Emily, she's the only female character who is definitely not a virgin when the show begins. The whole theme reinforces the idea that women should be sexually inexperienced, or else your life will be ruined, you will get pregnant, or die. Gender polarization and androcentrism on the micro level. It's easy to talk about each of the women individually as they all challenge androcentrism in different ways. Starting out strong, Lorelai. Lorelai is very stubborn and independent, especially when it comes to making her own money. She acts as the breadwinner for her and Rory, making it very clear that up until she has to borrow money for her parents to continue Rory's education at the prestigious Chilton, she has earned everything for herself. Even when Richard gives her a check for $75,000 as per an investment he made when she was born, she uses it as a way to pay off her debt to them, refusing to accept the large sum as a gift, ensuring her financial and personal independence. She also is the manager of an inn and later opens her own with her best friend Suki, showcasing her strength and work ethic. Emily. Lorelai's mother, Emily, is not a very nurturing one. When Lorelai tells her about her engagement to Max, Emily brushes it off as she found out she was not the first one to be told, leading to a massive fight. Additionally, Emily cannot keep a house staff because she is so demanding and aggressive, so much so it becomes a recurring bit on the show. Rory. Rory cheats on 2 out of the 3 of her boyfriends, both times with Jess, who is actually the only one she never cheats on, but it is always supposed to be justified. The exception here is Dean, as we've mentioned before, but the difference is he is the one in the relationship in that scenario, not the other way around. She kisses Jess while she's still in a relationship with Dean. She kisses Jess while she's with Logan, but both instances are framed as heat of the moment mistakes, much as we would see if she was a man instead. It's important to note here that she does not have sex with these guys when she's in a relationship. The only time she's negatively sanctioned for cheating is the Dean incident. All in all, these 3 main women in the show challenge androcentrism by being stubborn, independent, breadwinners, difficult rather than nurturing, aggressive, and promiscuous, respectively. How the men do gender. Luke is physical, assertive, and competitive. He is not afraid to be aggressive with other men. Specifically, when his nephew Jess misbehaves, he pushes him into a lake. After he finds out Dean broke up with Rory, he literally fights him in the street. Luke also fights with Rory's dad, Christopher, on 2 occasions. The first I will talk about later, and the second is when the two fistfight each other in a hilariously bad scene because they are both vying for the same place in the Gilmore Girls' lives. This asserts that men need to be strong, physical, and competitive to prove their manliness. Speaking of Christopher, he's angry, protective, aggressive, and jealous, especially when it comes to Lorelai and Rory. When he, Luke, and Lorelai catch Rory hooking up with Logan, At Emily and Richard's vow renewal, the two argue about who Rory's real father is at Christopher's initiation, though I have to say Luke wins this argument. But he only does so by being more protective and aggressive than Christopher, once again reinforcing that men need to be dominant. How the men undo gender. Luke is the most emotionally available of the men in the show, albeit in a very subtle way. Luke is a very sentimental man. He keeps his father's hardware store the same, other than turning it into a diner. He keeps an order he wrote down on the side of the wall. He keeps his ex-girlfriend's Rachel sweatshirt. He keeps the horoscope Lorelai wrote on the first time they met, and wears the hat that Lorelai gives him every day, all before they're even together. All told, Gilmore Girls challenges androcentrism more than it reinforces it, primarily through the actions and values of Lorelai, Rory, and Emily. This has been the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for watching.